Welcome back. A report by the World Bank has rated Cape Town and Durban ports among the world's worst performing. Transnet has reportedly raised concerns over the accuracy of this report, even questioning the methodology used to come to that conclusion. Well, let's unpack this further. We're joined this afternoon by Dr. Juanita Maree, who is the CEO of the Southern African Association of Freight Forwarders. Dr. Maree, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for coming on. I don't think there's any overstating just what a bad state our ports are in. This is fair comment, judging by the last multiple years.
Yeah, I think you're right, because let's say we all know in the last 13 years we did not invest in port equipment, and maybe our skill sets were also not enhanced by the latest technology. But we have similar views of Transnet. We look at our data and we don't believe we're the bottom of the pile. Yes, we're not good. We probably rank here in the, let's say, in the 300s, but definitely not the bottom of the pile. And I think there's various reasons which we can offer to justify why we're not the bottom of the pile. It's just not an opinion. We want to look at the data, analyze the data, and send it to the CSIR, because they currently have a logistics observatory and they can peer review the data.
It's also important to sorry, Dr. Maree, to just say from the outset that this World Bank report covers 2023, right? So it doesn't take into account any of the corrective measures that have been done in the past months, does it?
No, you're right, because it works on the calendar year 2023. But I think also, which is for us concerning, we don't know how the investors will look at this report, and how will they bring the report into their decision-making model. So for us, if you look at SA Inc., as you know, I mean, all our ports is being controlled by or managed by Transnet. So it doesn't paint a good picture when you look at the shared infrastructure with the shared responsibility. So yes, that's why we want to take the report up for review.
The CEO of the Transnet Group has said that, just in response to this World Bank report, has said that when a vessel enters a port, it is serviced by a number of role players before any of the cargo is offloaded or loaded. And the report, she says, doesn't take into consideration other factors that might determine the duration of the stay of that vessel. Is that fair? Should Transnet be allowed a bit of slack on that front?
Yeah, I think because it's, if you look at the vessels, it's the initial data of the vessels was to track where the vessels are. And when we look at the ports, the 405 ports that they analyze, you have the vessels at anchorage, so it's waiting for then the position at berth to come to the berth and to offload the containers. And some ports are penalizing the shipping lines when they are outside the terminals, and they give them a penalty as well, which we in South Africa don't do. And we also have very safe waters. So I must agree with her. I think there's vessels out of anchorage. Then we need to look at when they come to the berth and how quickly we work the berth, which is then the offloading of the import containers, the loading of the export containers, and also empty containers. And South Africa has got a very unique port system, because our vessels goes on a rotation basis. It goes from Durban to the Eastern Cape to Cape Town. So it's in a schedule. And I think rightfully what she's saying is correct, but we need to analyze the volume, the naming convention of the different ports, and how the matrix link with each other. So it's not easy just to bring it in one simple indicator. That we believe is not 100% correct.
Well, nonetheless, it's not like the World Bank has a particular vendetta against Durban or Cape Town ports, right? They're using a particular set of metrics to measure just how the ports are performing. What does this mean internationally for us, Dr. Maree, to have what is really a damning report on these two major ports in our country?
Let me just go back to, I think you're right. The World Bank doesn't have a vendetta about us. But for us, it goes further, because we have a very open economy, because we rely on imports, export, transshipment. So the moment we are being classified as the worst in the world, you would think for yourself, we're in the citrus season. So if there's a potential buyer in Europe or in China, for that matter, They will look at it and say, well, South Africa is the worst in the world. How does it compare with other countries that compete? And as we all know, it's not companies that compete, it's supply chains. So now all of a sudden, we make our supply chains not that lucrative, and not, for me, more importantly, it paints a picture that we're not resilient and we're not sustainable, and that impact on our growth opportunities. So I think that's why we take the report very seriously, and not that we want to criticize the bank, but we want to say, please display your information.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we peer review it with you and maybe get a different context, because that impact on the SA brand,
Yeah.
SA Inc.
Yeah, absolutely. And perhaps, which is, I think, another point that the Transnet CEO has made, is before the release of such a report, if indeed it's going to be as damning as this one was, should South Africa, or any other country for that matter, have a right of reply?
I do think so, because I think we all want one version of the truth. I mean, we don't want to shy away from measuring ourselves and where are we, but we also want to have a fair measurement, because if we are the worst in the world, which I doubt, then we need to have a serious wake-up call. Although we do have a serious wake-up call, because we need to work on our ports infrastructure and make sure that we keep the logistics network intact. But I believe that we need to have opportunity to comment on it, work through the data, and verify the data.
So Transnet, as I mentioned earlier, saying that a number of steps have been taken to try and improve the country's ports. Are you happy, as the Southern African Association of Freight Forwarders, that the necessary steps are being taken, and they are being taken with the necessary amount of urgency?
We can always do better. I think we in South Africans are very critical on ourselves. But the main thing is the equipment. And when you look at the equipment, we work with ship-to-shore cranes, with straddle carriers, RTGs, hauliers. And those equipment is difficult to come by, because it's not manufactured in South Africa. And you normally have a lead time between 12 to 18 months. So although they have placed some of the orders for the equipment, it's going to take us probably to get some of the equipment in December, and then next year, March. So with that in place, what they have done currently, and it's actually very encouraging, they launched a 100-day rapid response program to reduce the mean to repair on the equipment. And they also have contracts with OEMs to make sure that they get the spare parts quicker. So I think that's, for me, very encouraging, that it's not let we leave it. It's really all hands on deck. And what can we do to help our infrastructure, to help the supply chains? Because you must know, if the supply chains are not moving, we don't grow. And we need in South Africa a growth pattern. And that's why we need the supply chains to be intact.